I walked into my bedroom and saw my wife with my daughter. They didn't even flinch. I'm Yusuf. I was born in Istanbul, but I've lived in Australia since I was 21. My accent still slips through sometimes, especially when I'm angry. And lately, I've been angry a lot. My first marriage ended 6 years ago. She left without warning, packed her bags, took half the savings, and flew back to Europe. The only good thing that came out of that mess was Zoe, my daughter. She was 9 when the divorce happened. And from that moment, I was both her father and her mother. For years, I didn't even think about dating. All my time, energy, and love went into raising Zoe. I worked construction during the day, and in the evenings we cooked, played board games, or sat on the couch watching baking shows. She was my shadow, my everything. Then came Alina. She was different. Kind. Soft-spoken. Ukrainian, with this melodic accent and a way of looking at you like she actually cared. I met her at a community fundraiser. She was volunteering, handing out food. We talked for 5 minutes, but it felt like I'd known her for years. Our relationship moved fast. She wasn't just good to me, she was exceptional with Zoe. They bonded immediately. They had girls only spa nights, braided each other's hair, watched terrible rom-coms together. And Zoe, she started smiling again. Laughing like a kid. She even started calling Alina Mama before I proposed. I thought it was a sign that maybe, just maybe, life was giving me a second chance at happiness. I was wrong. Terribly wrong. At first I thought I was jealous of their closeness, of the bond one could never match. After the wedding, everything felt perfect. Too perfect. We bought a modest house outside Sydney, 3 bedrooms, white fence, lemon tree in the back. Alina decorated every corner with soft colors and handmade crafts. Our fridge was covered in Polaroids, Zoe in a flower crown, Alina baking cherry pie, the 3 of us tangled in Christmas lights. It was the kind of life I thought I'd never have again. But as the months passed, I began to feel distant. Not from them, but between them. As if there was a room in our house I wasn't allowed to enter. A space that didn't belong to me. They became inseparable. Shared whispers in the kitchen. Matching pajamas. Zoe stopped asking me to drive her to school. It was always, Alina and I are walking. I'd come home to find them curled up on the couch, one blanket, their legs tangled. Once, I found them asleep in Zoe's bed. Harmless, I told myself. Just love. Just affection. But something in me shifted. Maybe it was the way Zoe started avoiding my hugs. Or how Alina began locking her phone. Or the time I walked into the living room and they both jumped like they'd been caught doing something wrong, even though they were just watching TV. Or so they said. Then came the night I knocked on our bedroom door, and it was locked. Inside, laughter. Quick whispers. Then silence. When Alina opened the door, her face was flushed. She told me they were doing a face mask challenge, and didn't want to scare me with how weird they looked. Zoe peeked from behind, giggling. I laughed too. But inside? Something cracked. I told myself I was overthinking. That I was being paranoid. That I was afraid of losing the family I had rebuilt from ruins. But the worst part? I still wanted to believe them. Even when all the signs were screaming at me to look deeper. The day I installed the hidden camera, I felt like a criminal. By the next morning, I felt like a fool. I didn't plan it. It was instinct, survival. Like my gut had finally grown louder than my heart. One night, while Alina and Zoe were out grocery shopping, I went into our bedroom, pulled out a tiny camera I'd bought years ago for home security, and hid it in a hollowed-out photo frame on my dresser. Facing the bed. Discreet. Silent. Always watching. I didn't feel proud. I felt desperate. That week, I barely slept. I'd pretend to be tired, kiss them goodnight, and close the door to my small basement office. But instead of working, I'd watch. Hours of footage. Mostly harmless. Mostly boring. Until Thursday night. I was in the garage, fixing a cabinet door when I got a motion alert. It was just after 10 p.m. I checked the feed. They were in bed. Together. Zoe was lying on her side. Alina was behind her, spooning her, gently stroking her hair. Their voices were low, muffled. But I heard it. "I wish you were my real mom," Zoe whispered. Alina kissed the back of her neck. "I am your real mom," she said softly. "The one who never left." Zoe turned to face her. Their faces were inches apart. And then, they kissed. Not on the cheek. Not motherly. Not innocent. I dropped my phone. It clattered to the floor, screen still glowing, as if it, too, couldn't believe what it had seen. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. I wasn't angry. Not yet. What I felt, first, was shame. Because some part of me had known. Had felt it in the way they touched, the way they looked at each other. And I had ignored it. Had told myself I was being ridiculous. But I wasn't. I was just late. Too late to stop it. Too late to save what we were. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. I just pressed play, and watched them fall apart. I waited until Sunday. It was Zoe's favorite day, pancake morning, loud music, garden chores. Alina wore her sunflower apron. Zoe danced around in socks. To them, it was just another perfect moment in our picture-perfect life. But I wasn't smiling. I waited until after breakfast. Until the plates were cleared. Until the sun hit the living room just right, like it always did when I wanted to take family photos. Instead, I took out the flash drive. I plugged it into the smart TV. No words. No warning. Just footage. Silence fell. The screen flickered. The image sharpened. And there they were, Zoe and Alina, in my bed, moving as one. For the first 10 seconds, no one spoke. Then Zoe gasped. "What is this?" Alina's hand flew to her mouth. "Yusuf. You said you loved me," I said quietly. "You said you wanted a family. This is love," Alina cried. "I didn't plan it. It just happened. She needed someone. I was there. She's my daughter," I said, my voice cracking. "She's 16, Alina." Zoe stood up. "I'm not a child. You're my child." Zoe's face contorted. "She's more of a mother than the woman who abandoned me. She held me when I cried. She made me feel wanted. What we have, it's real." I couldn't breathe. Alina stepped forward. "We never meant to hurt you. We tried to stop." I stared at them. Two people I loved more than life. Two people who had built their own world inside mine. A world where I didn't exist. "You tried to stop?" I repeated. "Then why did it keep going?" Zoe's voice rose. "Because you were always working. Always tired. You didn't see me." "She did." Alina reached for my hand. I stepped back. "I don't care if you think it's love," I whispered. "It's betrayal. It's destruction. And now I made the second mistake of the day. I forgot that our house, our new home, had hidden cameras everywhere. Because 3 months earlier, Alina had signed us up for a family-centered lifestyle show. Her brother was pitching. "Just casual home footage," she said. "We can cut out anything we don't like." She never told me they were already recording. And she never told me her brother was already streaming. By the time I checked my phone, I was already a meme. I didn't realize it right away. After the confrontation, I left the house. No yelling. No threats. I just took the flash drive, my jacket, and walked out. My hands were shaking. My heart felt like it had cracked down the middle. I drove aimlessly for hours. No destination. Just away. When I finally stopped at a gas station, I checked my phone. 73 missed calls. 112 messages. Hundreds of notifications. The first text was from my cousin in Ankara. "Bro, are you okay? You're everywhere." Then another, from a coworker. Tell me this reality show thing is fake. And then I saw it. A screen-recorded clip. Posted on TikTok. Captioned. When you catch your wife and daughter live on your own reality show, flush face skull. The camera angle wasn't from my frame. It was from the kitchen ceiling. A wide-angle shot that captured me standing there, remote in hand, as the footage played. The moment Zoe screamed. The moment Alina cried. The moment I whispered, "She's my daughter." 15 seconds of tragedy. 15 seconds of everyone else's entertainment. By midnight, it had over 4.6 million views. Hashtags were trending. Hashtag stepmom scandal. Hashtag not my family. Hashtag Yusuf did nothing wrong. Hashtag Australia exposed. Some people mocked me. Some turned me into a joke. But others, they called me brave. A broken man with a steady voice. The only adult in the room. A father who watched his world collapse, and didn't strike, didn't scream, didn't fold. That night, I was trending in 5 countries. My face, blank, silent, devastated, was stitched next to crying emojis, fire emojis, devil horns. I was a meme. I was a symbol. And I didn't ask for any of it. Alina went on morning TV. Zoe vanished. And I became the villain in my own tragedy. By Monday morning, the offers came pouring in. Talk shows. Tabloids. Podcasts. Even a late-night host in New York who wanted me to zoom in for a quick trauma joke. I ignored them all. But Alina didn't. She was live on Sunrise Australia the next day. Perfect hair, soft lighting, that quivering voice she used when she wanted to look fragile, not dangerous. "I never intended for this to happen," she said to the camera, blinking like she'd rehearsed every frame. "I was trying to be a mother. I didn't know how lonely I was, until Zoe helped me feel again." The host leaned in, gently. "But people are calling it abuse." "I understand that," she said, nodding solemnly. "But love doesn't always come in the ways we expect." Love. She used that word like it was a shield. Meanwhile, Zoe was gone. Left a note on her pillow. "Don't try to find me. I'm safe. I need time. I love her. And I don't regret anything." I didn't even know where to look. Her school said she'd withdrawn. Her friends wouldn't talk. Her biological mother, my ex-wife, flew in from France for the first time in years, blaming me on live radio for being emotionally absent. Everyone had something to say. Except me. I stayed in the house. Alone. Wandering between rooms filled with ghosts and microphones. The reality crew had packed up and gone, but the cameras? Still there. Tiny black eyes watching. I could have taken them down. But I didn't. I wanted them to see me not breaking. Because while the world debated if Alina was a monster or a martyr, and whether Zoe was a victim or a rebel, I was still a father. Still breathing in a house that no longer felt like mine. And when I checked TikTok that night, I saw a video of me sitting alone on the edge of my bed, taken from an old pilot episode that never aired. The caption? Realest man on the internet. Hashtag justice for Yusuf. Over 2 million likes. And suddenly, the story wasn't just about them anymore. It was about me. I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. But sometimes, they're the same thing. When you become a viral sensation for losing everything, the world assumes you're broken. I wasn't. Not yet. I stopped responding to messages, but I read everything. Every theory, every comment, every DM from people telling me their stories. Daughters who had been groomed. Fathers who had been betrayed. Husbands who saw the signs but looked away. I kept a spreadsheet. Names. Dates. Patterns. I wasn't spiraling. I was planning. See, what most people didn't know was this. Alina's brother, Maxim, wasn't just a small-time producer. He was angling for a streaming deal. The footage from our home was his pitch. A raw family docu-series from the suburbs of Sydney. What he didn't count on was me. I contacted a lawyer. Not a flashy one. A quiet one. Someone who specialized in media consent and image exploitation. Turns out, the consent form I'd signed for the reality show? It was void. Why? Because the cameras had been streaming live without proper disclosure. And because I had never agreed to surveillance inside our bedroom. Game on. I filed a cease and desist against Maxim's company. Froze the entire project. Then I started my own move, slow, quiet, legal. I reached out to the families of other participants Maxim had filmed in past pilots. People he bullied into silence. I didn't have to convince them. They were already bitter. Angry. I just gave them direction. Within a week, we filed a collective suit. Alina didn't know. She was too busy giving interviews, signing brand deals, becoming an icon for unconventional love. She posted a photo of her and Zoe at a remote beach. Caption: Real love doesn't ask permission. #chosenfamily #healing. I stared at it for a long time. Then I clicked save. Because it would help the case. See, it wasn't about punishing them. It was about reminding the world that actions, especially the ones done behind closed doors, always leave fingerprints. And mine were all over this now. Not as the man who was betrayed, but as the man who decided this story wasn't over. They turned me into a meme. So I turned the meme into a message. It started with a video. Simple. Shot on my phone. No music. No edits. Just me, sitting at the same kitchen table where it all fell apart. I looked straight into the camera. You know me as the guy who caught his wife and daughter in bed. What you didn't see was what came before. What you didn't hear was the silence after. This isn't a story about sex. Or betrayal. This is a story about power. About what happens when someone fills your home with cameras, calls it love, and steals your reality to sell it to strangers. Pause. I let the words hang. They said I was weak because I didn't scream. But silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. I posted it to TikTok. And walked away. The next morning. 4 million views. 10,000 duets. Celebrities reposting with captions like, "Give this man a platform." Suddenly the narrative flipped. News outlets who once framed me as the passive husband now labeled me the man who took his pain and made it power. And that's when Zoe returned. A 17-minute YouTube video, shaky cam, no makeup. Just her, tear-streaked eyes swollen. I didn't understand what was happening. I thought I was in control. But I wasn't. I was lost. Alina said it was love. But it felt more like being chosen for something I didn't fully understand. I'm sorry, Dad. For not seeing how much you were trying. I see it now. I watched the whole thing without blinking. Not because it fixed anything. But because it finally cracked the mask. And then? Alina went silent. No more interviews. No more hashtags. Just a final post. Sometimes the people who save you were never safe themselves. A line designed to look deep. But I knew what it meant. She wasn't apologizing. She was deflecting. I didn't raise my voice. I raised the cost of their silence. The courtroom wasn't dramatic. No gavel slams. No gasps. Just white walls, filtered light, and the quiet shuffle of legal documents being handed back and forth like playing cards. Maxim tried to stall. Claimed the footage was archival. That we had all signed initial interest forms. But my lawyer, Amara, didn't blink. Streaming without consent, she said. In a minor's bedroom. In a man's private space. And for profit. The judge leaned back. Silent. Then nodded. That's when the offer started. Settlements. NDAs. Quiet payouts. I refused them all. I didn't want money. I wanted the truth to stay loud. So I made them a counteroffer. I dropped the case. You delete every frame of unreleased footage. You pull all episodes. You release a single public statement, one that names what happened. Not as entertainment. Not as messy love. But as exploitation. Maxim's face turned gray. Alina wasn't there. She sent a statement through her lawyer. This has already traumatized all parties. Prolonging it serves no healing. Classic Alina. Hurt someone, then beg for peace when they stop bleeding. They agreed to my terms. Too many eyes were watching. Later that week, I saw them again. It wasn't planned. I was leaving the courthouse, and they were across the street. Alina, in sunglasses. Zoe beside her, thinner, quieter. They saw me. Zoe froze. Alina took a step forward. I didn't. I just looked at her, once. Not with hatred. Not with rage. With absence. Because she was no longer someone who had power over me. She wasn't a mystery, or a wound. She was a solved equation. A simple answer to a question I never wanted to ask. And Zoe, my daughter, looked at me like she remembered who I was. I nodded. Just once. Then I walked away. That was the last time I saw either of them. They broke my home. But I rebuilt something stronger, without them in it. It's been a year. People still recognize me sometimes. At the gym. In line at the post office. On the street. They don't always say anything, but I see it in their eyes. That's him. The guy. The father. I don't correct them. I've started working again. Quiet gigs, part-time builds, nothing flashy. I'm renting a small apartment near the coast. No cameras. No shared calendars. No curated smiles for invisible audiences. Just silence. Peaceful, not strategic. Zoe and I message now. Sporadic, cautious. She sends photos sometimes, of a dog she adopted, of a sunrise from her dorm window. She's in uni now. Psychology. Ironic, maybe? Or healing. I don't push. I don't ask about Alina. And Zoe doesn't offer. It's an unspoken boundary either of us crosses. But last week, she texted. You were always the one who stayed. I see that now. I'm sorry it took me so long. I stared at the message for a long time. Didn't reply right away. I walked to the balcony. Listened to the wind. Watched a bird land on the railing, pause, and fly off again. Sometimes healing looks like that, quiet arrivals, gentle departures. When I finally texted back, I kept it simple. I love you. No matter how far you flew. And that was it. No final confrontation. No explosive revenge. Just truth, gently placed, like a stone on the grave of a past that no longer haunts me. Because in the end, I didn't need to destroy them. I just needed to survive them. And I did.